Do you ever feel overwhelmed by the huge number of things that you want to practice? How do you go about choosing between them? Well, in this video, I'm going to share how you can make that choice in a way that will really speed up your progress. Hi friends, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Morley-Fletcher from playinthezone.com, and on this channel, we explore strategies and insights to help musicians play better, improve faster, and have more fun along the way. Today, I want to say a bit about a question that I get asked a lot. It's people who are coming to me and saying that they've got so many different ideas of things to practice that they just don't know how to choose between them. This can be really unhelpful for people because it leads often to them being stuck and not making a start on doing any practice at all because there's just too much to decide between. Or it can lead to them starting with something and then changing their mind and practicing something else and then not being sure, and so they don't really go for it in a very committed way, and then they change again and just constantly skipping from thing to thing. And both of these things, just not practicing at all or constantly skipping around and never being sure what you're doing, both of these are going to lead to slow progress, if any, and that is going to reduce motivation and you can get in a real cycle. So this is not a helpful place to be in at all. But how do you get through it? Because it's a very real thing. It really feels like just too much to do. And the first thing to realize is that you do need to make a decision. You've got to decide one way or another. It may not be perfect, and that's fine, because even just an okay decision about here's what I'm going to practice, maybe it's not the best thing, but it's a decent choice, that is going to give you much more progress than making no decision at all. And we go through what we've said earlier, which is either you don't do anything, or you constantly skip around and you feel really unsure about what you're doing. So accept that you've got to make a decision, and making this decision is going to be hard. Expect that. It's not the case that there is some easy thing that's suddenly going to go off like a light bulb in your brain and go, this is the thing, everything else is unimportant, perfect, massive clarity, and you never need to worry about this again. If that was the case, then it would probably have happened already. So expect that it's going to be hard, accept that it's going to be hard, and that you're never going to know for sure whether you've made the right choice, because this is one of the things that stops people. They kind of get some way towards making a decision, but they can't be sure, and it feels really uncomfortable to say, right, I'm doing this. This is my choice, when you're not sure about it. But that is the reality. That is what you are going to have to live with. So accept that, embrace it, realize that's okay, and that's going to be just the way it is. So the other thing to realize, which is going to help with this, is that it's not your choice forever. This is the only thing you can ever practice. Everything else that you don't choose to practice at the moment, that's it, it's gone. Because that's what we fear. We feel like we're losing something when we make a decision. But that's not the case, because you can always go back and practice other things later. You always have that option. And you can always change your mind. This is not an irrevocable decision where once you've made it, everything else is off the table until you move on to the next thing. You can go back and say, actually, that wasn't the right choice. I'm changing things. Now, we talked earlier about one of the issues about people not making a choice is that they skip from thing to thing to thing. So this is not something to do immediately and lightly. Once you've made a decision, you want to stick with it for a bit. Give it a chance for you to try it out and see how that goes, and then measured decision after that. If you think, okay, this really wasn't the right choice, then yeah, change it, make a different decision, and know that you can do that. But it shouldn't be on a whim, it shouldn't be straight away. You should give it a little bit of time. This is all some almost mindset stuff, I'd say, around, well, how are you getting into this? How are you making this choice? The other thing that you need to have in here is an idea of, well, how much are you choosing in terms of different things? Are you going to be incredibly focused on just one tiny thing? Or are you going to allow yourself 2 or 3 things, whatever that is? And this is something that you're going to have to make the decision for yourself. There isn't an absolute answer here, but I would say you don't want to say, right, I'm going to be working on 20 different things. It's just way too much. It becomes really quite hard to juggle them. You can get distracted, move between them. You at least want to have a small number of big areas, and it may be that within those areas there are different things to work on, either because there are different facets of them, or as you work on a particular thing, let's say it's a piece you're working on, to start with, you might work on the first few bars, and then as you get that down, you move on, you work on a different part. So the day-to-day things, there might be quite a few of those, but you should be quite clear on having a small number of big picture. This is what I'm driving towards. And like I say, this is a personal choice. For me, I find 2 or 3 things often works well. I don't like to do just one. Yes, you can make huge progress with that if you're really focused on it, but I do like to have a bit of variety so that I can keep things interesting and switching, and actually also for learning, actually being able to do something for a bit and then switch and then back is often good. Like I say, 2 or 3 happens to work quite well for me. You can probably manage with a few more, but I like to be pretty deeply focused on what I'm doing. This is not, however, a complete, I am only ever going to work on this 1 or 2 or 3 things for the next however long the period is. The way I like to work it is I will have these real focuses, the things where I'm thinking, this is where I really want to improve my music, this is where I'm going to make massive progress. And then for some of my practice time or my playing time, I will allow myself to do things, just whatever I want for fun, because I want to, or because there are topics that I kind of want to revisit, or I'll just dip my toe in. And this probably wouldn't be more than 20% of the time. It may well be actually more like 10% of the time. But again, it's balancing how much progress can I make if I am uber focused versus, well, I know that I want to have a bit of fun with this. I know I get more motivated when I give myself some leisure time, if you like, some things to do that are not about just being incredibly productive. So again, experiment with yourself how you do this, but I like to give myself a bit of fun time, as it were, when I can just work on whatever I want. And there may be huge numbers of different topics in there. They may not be the most important things. It may just be stuff because I fancy doing it. But I find that helpful to keep me motivated and fresh. The final thing that I want to say about this is get help with this. A teacher is a great person to ask for advice on narrowing down the things that you can practice, but actually just talking it through with anyone really can help, because you have got to put these things into words. You've got to explain to someone else, what am I thinking of doing? Why am I doing it? And as you do that, you'll find you often get rather more clarity on why it is important to you. And some of the explanations you'll come up with won't actually sound that strong when you say them out loud, and others you'll realize actually this is quite important. So that external thing, whether it's advice, hopefully in discussion rather than just being handed down from a teacher, or whether it's talking it through with a friend or a fellow musician, whatever, that can be really helpful. So I hope you found this useful in terms of giving you some ways of breaking down, well, I've got too much stuff to practice, how do I choose between it? We haven't gone into, well, how do you decide what the most important topics are? There's lots of different things around that. It'll be very different in different cases for you, depending on what your goals are, your objectives are. And yes, you definitely want to look into that, but it's a bit more of a, well, what's involved in this? Why is it so hard? What are the mindset barriers you're going to have to overcome in order to actually make that decision? And I hope I've given you an idea that it is an important decision to make, and it's not as heavy as it seems. Pick something to work on, 1 or 2 things, do it. Know that you can move on to other things later. Know that you can change your mind. Know that everything will always have to adapt as you move forward, as you improve, as you change as a person, as your goals improve, all those sorts of things. But do make this decision, because it really helps with your motivation when you are actually working on something you're focused on it, and you see yourself making progress. Now, there are things that you can do in a practice session itself that will help motivation as well. So I recommend that you check out my video on that next. And if you'd like the special practice and performance tips that I only share with subscribers, then head on over to playinthezone.com and sign up for the emails. They're free. I've been Morley-Fletcher. Thanks so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.